Sometimes the optimal route isn't always optimal. Sometimes the simpler path is the better path. And this might definitely be true when it comes to the order of operations of where to invest your money. Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. Let's first get started by talking about the basic optimal order of investing. If you do a search on YouTube on where to put your money, or you do a search on Google of which accounts to use first when you're investing your money, this is pretty much what you're going to find, pretty much in every list. It first starts out with the 401k match. If you're getting a match at work for your 401k, put that money in first because it's 100% free money. Second, it's going to be to max out your Roth IRA. Third is going to be to max out your HSA if you have an eligible plan. Fourth is going to be go back to your 401k and max it out if you can. And then finally, number 5 is going to be put any additional funds into a taxable regular brokerage account. Basically, the more money that you have each month to invest, you're going to move down this list. You're going to move down the line. Once you max out this account, you move on to this one, and then you move on to this one until you get to the taxable brokerage account, where if you're maxing out all of the previous accounts, then you can put additional funds into that account. And I honestly think this is a great starting place. And this is probably what I would say to most people. However, there might be a better way for some circumstances. There might be a better way for you. What about this list instead? Okay, I put together a new order of operations, and here it is. In the number 1 spot, keeps the 401k match. Okay, I just can't get rid of the 401k match. It is 100% free money. Like if you're putting 3% into your 401k and your employer is matching 3%, that's a 100% ROI return in year 1. If you want to know if your 401k is any good, here's the average 401k match. According to Google, it is 4.7%. If you wanted to compare your 401k, there it is. Then at number 2, I'm going to actually put the taxable brokerage account in there at number 2. Number 3 is going to be an IRA or an HSA. Number 4, HSA or IRA. Then finally at number 5, I'm going to come back to the 401k. Quite a big difference in that list compared to the first one, right? Well, let me explain why I put taxable in the number 2 position. But first, I do have to let you know that not only do you need to know where you invest your money, like what order of operations, but you need to know a lot more when it comes to investing your way to financial independence. That's why I have a complete guide for you, but more on that later. Why did I put taxable in the number 2 position? Well, there are several reasons. And the first and probably the primary reason why is when it comes to flexibility. A taxable brokerage account is the most flexible account. It's flexible in many ways. First off, you can have access to your funds pretty much at any time. Secondly, it's flexible when it comes to retiring early. It makes retiring early a lot simpler. Then there's the fact that you can use a taxable brokerage account to invest for long-term future purchases that actually don't have to do with literally with retirement. So you can use this account. It might be the better account for that. And then another reason is that you might need to use a taxable brokerage account in order to survive the 5-year waiting period for the Roth IRA conversion ladder. It's a whole nother story, a whole nother video, but when you're converting money into a Roth IRA, you have to wait 5 years before you can withdraw that money tax and penalty free. And during that time, you have to live off of some money, right, in early retirement, and it could be a taxable brokerage account that you are using. Not only does the taxable brokerage account have a lot of flexibility, but you might not even really be paying that much taxes on your investments in the first place if you choose the right investments to put into your taxable brokerage account. Okay, it sounds really scary, right? It has taxable in the name, right? You're going to pay a lot of taxes, but that doesn't have to be the case if you are using tax efficient investments. And for the most part, if you are investing in index funds, then you already have very tax efficient investments, and you probably won't be paying very much taxes even if they are held in a regular investment account. The reason why index funds are very tax efficient is first off because many of the dividends that they do pay, and it's not a very high percentage of a dividend yield, but when they do pay dividends, most of those dividends are going to be qualified dividends, and qualified dividends are going to be taxed at the long-term capital gains rate, which is much more favorable than the regular income tax rate. The same can be said about long-term capital gains. When you actually do sell your investments and realize some long-term capital gains, you're going to be taxed at a much more favorable rate. And you get to control when you take those gains because you get to control when you sell off your investments and realize those gains. And while those gains are, unrealized, when you haven't sold them, they are not going to be paying any taxes on those investments that are located within the account. So you can actually defer taxes on capital gains for a very long time in a regular brokerage account. When it comes to the taxes that you do pay on the investments located within your taxable brokerage account, they are going to be very, very favorable. For a lot of people making around the median income range, your taxable long-term gains and your qualified dividends might be taxed at 0%. And then it goes to 15% and for a maximum of 20%. Compared to regular income tax, that is extremely favorable because regular income tax can be taxed all the way up to 37% currently. And then another thing when it comes to taxes with your regular brokerage account, you can take advantage of what's known as tax gain harvesting and tax loss harvesting. Now, those are two completely separate videos in and of their own, but you cannot do any kind of tax gain harvesting or tax loss harvesting in a retirement account, such as a traditional account or a 401k or a Roth IRA. You can only do tax gain and tax loss harvesting in a regular brokerage account. All of those reasons and probably many more are what make the taxable brokerage account a pretty darn good option for investing your money for financial independence. But you know what else is a great option? Hitting the like button on this video. If you're enjoying this video so far, please make sure you hit that like button. It really does help me out and I would really appreciate that. Okay, but seriously, one other thing you might be wondering about the list that I created is why would I put an IRA or an HSA before the 401k? The main reason for that is that you have much more control over your investment options within an IRA or an HSA that you open up at a brokerage of your choice. This could possibly lead to you getting lower fees. For example, if you're investing in VTI, which is Vanguard's total stock market index fund for the United States, you might have only 0.03% in fees, whereas your 401k, it might have much higher fees. Not all 401ks are created equal. Another thing is that when it comes to your IRA and HSA, you have more options to choose from. You have more investments to choose from. Now that you need a lot of options to choose from, I think that index funds are pretty much the best option for most people. But of course, it's always good to have more options, especially if some options are better than the other. Whereas with your 401k, you are limited to whatever happens to be located within that 401k plan. Another thing you might be wondering is, why is IRA and HSA interchangeable? Why is it one or the other? Why isn't one specifically put in the list before the other one? There are several reasons for that as well. And it mostly comes down to your preferences and to your individual goals. Someone might value an HSA more than let's say a Roth IRA, whereas another person might value a Roth IRA more than an HSA. I like to think of an HSA as some kind of weird hybrid between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. So the HSA does have that triple tax benefit, which kind of combines the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA when it comes to medical expenses. And that's why I personally would put the HSA above the Roth IRA in my personal preferences, because it's a great long-term account for regular retirement age. And of course, because you get that triple tax benefit. However, someone might value more money in the Roth IRA, and so they might want to put their money first into the Roth IRA before they get to an HSA. Now, this leads me to the big question here. I want to know from you in the comments below, what are your personal preferences or your order of operations on where you're putting your investments? Where do you put your investments first, second, and third, and so on? And why is that your strategy? I'm really curious to hear from you in the comments below. Now, here's another question that you might have when it comes to the list that I made. When it comes to the IRAs, which one's better, the Roth IRA or the traditional IRA? That's an entire video itself, choosing between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, because there are so many factors that need to be considered before choosing between one or the other. Of course, either one of them is a great option for most people. But I think it mostly comes down to these four factors, or these four circumstances. The first one is going to be your income. How much income are you making? Are you subject to phase outs? That is something that you need to consider. The next factor is your tax situation. How much taxes are you paying? Are you in a high marginal tax bracket, a low marginal tax bracket? Do you have state taxes or do you not have state taxes? So that's something that you also need to consider. And then another one is, what are your plans for retirement? Do you plan on retiring early? Do you plan on retiring, in your 60s? Do you plan on retiring as late as possible? So that is definitely something that needs to be considered between choosing between which one's going to be best for you. And then lastly, another factor to consider is just flat out, what is your personal preference? Do you choose to have your money taxed now and then you have tax-free in the future? Or would you prefer to have your money tax deferred and then get taxed on in the future? So that is another thing that needs to be considered as well. That's why I left it up for you to decide. And now that you know that the order of operations when it comes to investing can be different for different people, another thing that you need to learn about is how to achieve financial independence through investing. And luckily for you, I have a complete guide to investing your way to financial independence. That video is going to pop up on the screen right after I get off the screen. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time. And let me tell you that. And let me first so it's just going to plant flat and why? If you're enjoying this video so far, please make sure you hit it.